likelihood of you having a long-lasting and happy marriage if you had a big wedding? Well, researchers wanted to see whether or not there was any correlation between the amount of money you spend on your wedding and whether or not you have a happy marriage. Now, these are researchers from Emory University, and they looked at 3,151 individuals that were married at some point. They're either still married or were married at one point and got divorced. And here's what they found. Really, really interesting findings. And again, there's a correlation here, so there needs to be more research done to see if there's causation, but nonetheless, findings are fascinating. The study found that women whose wedding cost more than $20,000 divorced at a rate roughly 1.6 times higher than women whose wedding cost between $5,000 and $10,000. And couples who spent $1,000 or less on their big day had a lower than average rate of divorce. So they're actually looking at the national average of divorce or national rate of divorce. And if you spent $1,000 or less, you're a little less likely than the national average to get divorced.
Okay. So I love these findings for a number of reasons. First of all, the wedding planning is a pain in the ass to everybody. And there's all this BS pressure like, oh, now if you really cared for that person, you would spend a lot more money on the wedding. Oh,
that's so stupid.
And now you have evidence that that is counterfactual. It is the exact reverse. If you really care about the person, you want the marriage to last, you do a cheaper wedding. Okay. Now, I don't like the wedding industrial complex.
Neither do I.
And it's a nice blow to them. And so now we're going to speculate on why this might be the case. So first of all, if you do this, you might start in a financial hole, which will tax the marriage. Finances is one of the principal things that causes strife in a marriage, right? And you're starting out in a deficit. Yeah. I mean, oftentimes, a lot of times parents cover it, but then that creates other stresses, right?
Does.
And it creates stress with the in-laws, who's covering it, how much is it going to cost, et cetera, right?
Nothing comes free. If the in-laws are covering it, they're going to want things their way, and there are going to be lots of arguments and fights along the way. That's just typically how it works out.
It's all drama, right? Yeah. And then there's a factor, honestly, that if you are so insistent on a bigger wedding, that you might be concerned more about status. And if you are, well, then that's also a thing that's difficult to appease, right? And then that's going to create more and more issues.
Yeah, so that's my hypothesis, right? I always believe that if you are an independent woman, like I always look at it from my perspective, right? If you're an independent woman and you are financially stable on your own and you're doing really well with your finances, then that opens up a lot of possibilities in terms of a partner because you're less concerned about how much money a person's making, right? If you're not concerned about having this big wedding and marrying someone who's going to treat you to a lavish ceremony and a lavish reception, then you're more likely to focus on the things that matter. Like, am I compatible with this person? Do I genuinely love this person? Do we get along? Is this person my best friend? Those are way more important than having this massive big wedding. And people like lose themselves when they're planning weddings. I just don't understand it. Like, they become completely different people. Just calm down. You're stressing yourself out for nothing.
Think about what Anna's saying, because there's something really great in there. If you're concerned about how much the wedding is and what that indicates about whoever, right, groom, bride, whatever it might be, and how you feel about them, you sure you're supposed to be marrying that person? Like, if it's swayed by something as artificial as how much money they spent on the wedding.
How nice was the engagement ring?
Right. Isn't it supposed to be like, I'm marrying you because I love you to death and I think we're very compatible and I think we're going to be a great couple and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life together with you. Now, I like a nice wedding. That's okay. People want nice weddings. I get that, right? Of course, right? But I don't need a nice wedding. There's a big difference there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not a requirement. And that's really the most important thing.
And it turns out that if you spend less than $1,000, you're actually more likely to stay together.
Yeah, and also, if you guys are able to be frugal together, then that could lead to a lot of financial responsibility in the future. That means that you guys are both financially responsible, you're smart with your money, and so that could lead to a lot less fighting in the future over finances.
And now I want to give you the average cost of the wedding, because this kind of blows people's mind. No, it doesn't actually, because people are used to it, but it should blow your mind. Couples in the United States spent an average of $29,858 for their big day in 2013, a record high. It's according to a survey of 13,000 brides and grooms by a wedding website, thenot.com. Now, there's also something a little ironic, too, that if it turns out there are more people at your wedding, then you are less likely to get divorced. So now, if there are more people at your wedding, you're also more likely to spend a lot of money, right? But it turns out you got to find that right balance with a lot of people, but not a lot of money. So invite everybody, have Doritos and beer, and everything's going to be okay.